Okay, hello and welcome. Brett here with ClickMill.co. In this video, we're going to be discussing a decision-making model called second-order consequences. And this is definitely an advanced line of reasoning, and most people are not going to think this way. And so this is going to expand your awareness of what the fruit of a potential line of decision-making is going to get you. And this is kind of a chess game. We're thinking into the future with second-order consequences. I'm going to go ahead and share my screen with you. Okay, so on the screen here, you're going to see we have a guy here or gal, and they're considering purchasing this TV here on the shelf at the store. And the first order consequences is what people think of, because we're here in the present and we go, wow, what's this going to cost me? What am I going to get? What am I going to lose? Pros and cons. And what do we say? Well, it's going to cost me $1,000. And also I'll get a TV, which would be pretty cool. And wow, this is a 4K UHD LCD TV, whatever, who knows what it is. And so we're looking at the costs now. And if you're playing chess, and this is a very strategic decision-making device that we're talking about, this model, this is chess. If you've played chess, you start playing chess and you just look at the move in front of you and you go, oh my gosh, that pawn, I don't want to lose that pawn. You can't take this. And then you go and you try to save the pawn. Well, what happens when you try to save that pawn? You end up losing the whole game or losing a really good piece because all you were looking at was that one pawn. You weren't looking at the ramifications, 2 moves out, 3 moves out, 4 moves out of what happens when you move that pawn. Now, what do really good chess players do? They're looking at this pawn right here, this kind of 1 move out, and they don't really care about that pawn. They're looking at the vision. They're reasoning backwards from what's the goal of the whole game? To take the other person's king. They will lose any piece. They will make any sacrifice so long as they get the win 10 moves out. And so that's how they're calculating. So most people look now and they go, oh, I don't want to lose the pawn. Ooh, I'd really like to get this TV. It's only $1,000 and I get the TV. Cool. People who create a lot of fruit in their life don't look at it this way. They reason backward. They say, where do I want to be? What's the vision? And then they make decisions from there. And so the next thing we're going to see is the second order consequence. And we're thinking forward most of the time. If you're doing this really right, you'd actually think backward, but you'll see the whole thing and we can look at that as we get there. Okay, so here's the second order consequence. Well, all right, I'm going to buy the TV. I lose $1,000. I'm going to get a TV. Cool. I've got that empty TV stand in my house right now. So let's get that. Well, but what happens after you buy that? Well, you spend $1,000, but the average consumer in America watches 4 hours of TV a day, or screen time broadly, but we'll call it TV time, about 4 hours a day. Well, okay, so the second order consequence is you get a TV, but you lose $1,000 and you're losing 4 hours a day. Whoa. Okay, well, that's a different calculation. Well, what happens from there? Okay, so if I buy this TV, I'm looking, I'm gonna lose 4 hours a day, and I'm gonna lose $1,000. Oh, okay. Well, what happens next? Well, the next, and this is the third order consequence. Well, what happens when that happens? Well, I lose $1,000. I lose 4 hours a day. I have less energy. Why? Because I'm sitting around all the time watching TV. I'm gaining weight and my health is deteriorating over a longer period of time. So you can see we're projecting this further into the future. And we're sort of extrapolating the consequences of what this might do in our life. And now what I'll say here is this is at the edge of any person's ability to reason. And so I will say that the rule here is there are no certainties. Maybe you're the person with just the super great genetics and you can sit and watch TV your whole life and you'll be fine. I don't know, maybe. But what we look at here is there are no certainties. There are just probabilities. Maybe you're the person who buys the TV and then you're just like, I don't really need to watch it that much. And you're exercising anyway. Maybe that's you. And that's, maybe that's fine. I mean, there's a case for moderation, and I'm not saying it's a bad thing to own a TV. What I am saying, though, is that there are probabilities at play. And the probability, in my estimation, in this mental model here, in this example, is if you spend $1,000 on a TV and then you don't watch it, you don't get your use out of it, what are you going to feel? Buyer's remorse. Nobody wants to feel buyer's remorse. You really got to get the use out of that thing. Well, I bought it. I mean, I can't just let it sit there now. You're going to want to use it. And so there are probabilities. So what is the probability it plays out like this in the United States, at least? Pretty good. Okay, so then we've got third order. Well, now we're losing energy, we're gaining pounds, our health is deteriorating. I mean, this is just looking like an American at this point. So this isn't really crazy out there. And then if we push this even further, what do? We've got $1,000 in the TV, and this is after 1 year. We have lost 1,460 hours. To be like a world's best expert in an area, you need at least 10,000 hours. That's a tenth of that. You could have created some amazing fruit for the kingdom in your life. And instead, we've dropped 1,460 hours into TV. So what's happening? Well, your energy is really down because you're not moving around. You've got 10 pounds on you. You have now, you're, negatively affecting your health, and your life satisfaction is down too, because why? You're not doing anything worthwhile. And so if we consider our vision, and let's say our vision is up here, like you've seen in other kind of examples, where is God calling you to go? Is God calling you to go down a harder route that produces kingdom fruit, which is, I hope, you, if you're in this course? This is probably not the trajectory you want to be on. Now, does that mean you just don't buy a TV at all? I mean, maybe. My mentor dumped the TV. Now, I have not dumped the TV, but we do not watch TV. That is not a part of our routine at home. We might put on a fireplace, or some like rain ambiance, or like a coffee shop ambiance, but we're not just watching TV. And so maybe there are some tweaks you need to make to this. Well, okay, we'll buy the TV, but we're going to have a hard limit on how much TV can be watched per day. And that could solve some of this. Or maybe you're just like, it's not even worth it. I'd rather just have all 4 hours to do something better. Spend it with my wife, whatever it is. And so this is how you reason first, second, third, fourth order consequences. Now, I do think even if people did reason this out in this way, I still think they'd probably make the same decision. Why? Because their vision is aligned with the TV. What is the goal of many, many people? To live comfortably, to live a nice life that's fulfilling personally, to maybe we'll say personal pleasures. Well, I really like that TV show, and yeah, I want to watch every episode that's ever existed. And that's what we do. And so when it's aligned with vision, then these first, second, third, fourth order consequences make sense. If you're aligned with producing kingdom fruit, then this is going to look very strange to you. And so here's what happens. The world would align with this. I mean, obviously, the world is aligned with this. This is why, at least in the West, we have, couch potatoes. We have people who are just sitting on the couch all the time and doing this. And this is going to look normal for the world because it's in line with the world's vision. Now, if you have a different vision than the world, you're going to start looking real weird. So, for example, my mentor does not have a TV. Why? Because he considered his vision. He said, where is God taking my family? I got 7 kids. I got this huge marketing firm. I've got all these other things. He's got ministries. He's doing, church at his house on Sunday nights. He is super productive in all these areas. He does not have time for TV. And those things are more important. So they just pitched the TV. Now they have a projector. And if they want to watch TV, they have to get out the projector and set it up. And it is an event with the family. It is an actual important sort of bonding time. And he goes, every few months, we'll get the projector out. We'll watch a movie, something that's edifying. And well, great. That's awesome. But when people go over to his house, they're like, wait a minute, something's missing here. You don't have a TV? What kind of, what kind of weirdo are you? And that makes sense. When people see you making decisions that are different from them, they are going to make assumptions about you. And this is classic. This is a classic thing that happens if you study strategy. If you study strategy, the best strategists that have ever existed, especially in military, people thought they were crazy. And then it actually turns out on the back end that people call them geniuses. And I don't remember exactly which military leader this was, but I don't know, a long, long time ago in a country far, far away, one of these military strategists was going to fight another nation. And I want to say this might have been Alexander the Great, but I don't remember. Anyway, and the expectation at the time was you just go and lay siege to the city. Well, he understood the city was way too powerful to lay siege to it. And so when they should start, let's say turning left to go to the city, they just start turning right. And his army and all of the people, kind of spying on the army, where is it going? What is it doing? They're going to come, they're going to lay siege to this city. He just starts going off in the wrong direction. And everybody thought he was crazy. Why? Because the decision he's making in the present does not line up with what everybody else thought would be the case. They're saying, oh, he wants to take the city, so therefore he's going to go fight the city. That would make sense. But he's doing a different calculation. And he's saying, I don't want to take the city. He's adding another model on top. I want to take the city and I don't want to lose anybody. I definitely don't want to lose. I don't want to lose people. And so he's saying, how do I take the city and not lose people? Because he's saying, what do I get? I get the city and I lose 1,000 people. And I'm just making this up. And I get a city. Well, he doesn't like that calculation because if he loses 1,000 people, he's not going to be able to take the next city. So what he's thinking is, how do I go up here? Second order consequence. How do I take the city and lose no people? And nobody had ever done this before in all of human history. And so nobody knew what he was doing. They thought he was losing his mind. Well, what does he do? He goes to the rural areas outside the city and he starts burning down all the fields with all the food. And he just lights them all on fire. There's no military there. He had 100% access and just burnt it all down. And then he just went and camped outside the city and just blockaded it until people decided they were ready to give up, and they gave up, no fight. And it just blew people's minds because it had never been done before. I don't remember where the first time this happened was, but that was the first time. And that became a normal siege tactic from that point forward. And so people could not understand what he's doing in the present. And the reason they couldn't understand his present move was because he wasn't making an action that was based in the present. He was taking an action that only made sense 2 or 3 chess moves down the line. And that's how we want to engage our ministries, because when we're making decisions, we're not making them for now, we're making them to pursue the vision, which would be up here in the corner, that God is telling us to pursue. So that would lead you to then make decisions that probably don't align with what most people think you would do. And that is okay. That is also why we would see Christ really being called out. Why? Because he's making decisions that uphold his righteousness and glorify God. And what does the world want? Not righteousness. They don't want to glorify God. They want to glorify themselves and idols and all this other stuff. And, the Pharisees and the temple and all of the things. And he was making decisions that were outside of their understanding, and it made them very uncomfortable. So this is the type of decision making that we want to be engaged in. I don't want to make a decision today if it takes away from the vision later. I want to put myself at the end and make decisions today that are in alignment with the end. And when you start practicing this, you'll start realizing, oh, some of those decisions actually look really weird to people outside. And that's great. That means you are doing something, you're critical thinking your decisions different from the masses. That means you're not really following the crowd. You're not sort of part of that herd mentality. And that increases your likelihood of producing good fruit, because the masses, the 80%, produces 20% of the fruit. If you remember the 80-20 principle, which, yes, I believe was prior to this. Yep. So you remember the 80-20 principle, 80% of the population produces 20% of the fruit. 80% of the Christians are going to produce 20% of the kingdom fruit. So even amongst Christians, if you're doing things that don't really make sense, as long as they're biblical and they're sensible and stewardly and all this stuff, then yeah, that's probably a good thing to actually make decisions that break with the norm, because it's the norm that does not get fruit. That's why we're all here. Even in these courses, we're here because I want something different and I'm not quite getting it. Okay, well, we have to do something different to get something different fruit. So this is second order consequences. If you have questions, let me know in the comments. I hope this one's a fun for you. I really enjoy this one and try to use this in my own decisions. So with that, we're going to get into the next decision-making model or mental model, and I will see you in the next video. God bless.